I think something either really amazing or really disappointing and embarrassing is about to happen in the corner of YouTube known as LeftTube, aka Breadtube. For the uninitiated, LeftTube/Breadtube is a loose collection of channels dedicated to leftist ideas like social justice and critique of capitalism. Lately, there has been an effort to make LeftTube more of an organized movement that exists in real life in addition to the internet. However, as all things leftist, infighting and gatekeeping might kill the movement before it can really blossom. It appears that if you're anywhere right of Stalin, you might be labeled as a liberal or even worse, a centrist. To really understand the drama going on, you need to understand a little bit about anarcho-commie principles. As you might have guessed, these guys don't like it when things aren't equal, since their goal is to abolish unjust hierarchies of power. Problem is, there are a handful of popular left-tubers with hundreds of thousands of subs and patrons doing collabs with each other, while the other smaller left-tubers are left to wallow in obscurity. Some of the bigger channels have tried to lift up the little guy and level the playing field, but unfortunately got involved in some intense drama. When someone in Peter Coffin's online community was accused of sexual assault, everything went to shit, and the outrage mob went after him and anyone who associated with him, namely Angie Speaks. Audiences in general can be incredibly vicious, but combine that with social justice outrage and you get an entirely different beast. The level of hate I have seen thrown at the big stars of LeftTube by the little people would rightfully scare any big channel out of the more personal interaction with the plebes, which of course reinforces the hierarchy, which of course makes this whole thing clown world. I was honestly excited to see something revolutionary blossom, but leftist cynicism is quite a monster, and by the looks of it, it's eating its own self again. So it's not a surprise to see some of the more prominent left-tubers start to distance themselves from the title and the movement. T1J, who is perhaps borderline left-tube because of his pro-capitalist views, released a video recently with a very critical view of the whole LeftTube thing. Then ContraPoints, who is so-called Queen of LeftTube herself, posted a comment to this video saying, "If you find a way out of LeftTube discourse, please take me with you, LOL." Cat Black, who is another prominent LeftTuber, posted, "I wish I made it clearer in my video that I don't particularly care to be part of LeftTube." Cat Black is of course credited for pointing out the elephant in the room, that LeftTube is predominantly white. This was perhaps the biggest blow to the budding movement, considering it's rather embarrassing when you're trying to establish racial equality and representation, and it's just white people talking about Marxist theory to white people. Despite these setbacks, smaller breadtubers are continuing to spur the revolution by giving tips for organization and using the word praxis a lot. Praxis is when theory is made reality, so the real test is if these leftist channels can get over their differences and form a real community of action. Some of the other barriers they face comes from their own anarcho-communist principles. Many of the left-tubers have faced criticism because they choose to capitalize off of their channel. Turns out selling t-shirts and accepting sponsorships presents a moral ethical crisis. But not to worry, since the system is to blame instead of the individual, then they must play the capitalist game. They simply have no choice. And so the future of Breadtube is still up in the air. But in the meantime, you have this centrist attention. This has been a very short and superficial analysis, but thank you for watching anyway, and please let me know what you think.